The atmosphere. Learning target number 4 for the atmosphere is I can explain why the atmosphere has layers and identify what occurs in each layer. Your essential vocabulary is troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, ozone, and jet stream. Earth's atmosphere is divided into 4 main layers. From the ground to space, the layers are the troposphere, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, and the thermosphere. The atmosphere thins out in each layer until the gases dissipate in space. There is no distinct boundary between the atmosphere and space, but an imaginary line about 68 miles from the surface called the Kármán line is usually where scientists say atmosphere meets outer space. The troposphere is the layer closest to the Earth's surface. It is 4 to 12 miles thick and contains half of the Earth's atmosphere. Air is warmer near the ground and gets colder as you increase altitude because you are moving farther away from the ground, which is a heat source. Weather, clouds, where most planes fly, the jet stream, which are wind currents, and nearly all of the water vapor and dust in the atmosphere are in the troposphere. What is the jet stream, you may ask? Well, jet streams are relatively narrow bands of strong wind in the upper levels of the atmosphere. The wind blows from west to east and flow often shifts to the north and south. Jet streams follow the boundaries between hot and cold air and is similar to the Eastern Australian current from the movie Finding Nemo, but instead of water, it is air. The stratosphere is the second layer. It starts above the troposphere and ends about 31 miles above the ground. Ozone is abundant here, and it heats the atmosphere while also absorbing harmful radiation from the sun. The air here is very dry and is about 1,000 times thinner here than it is at sea level. Because of the thin air, this is where weather balloons fly. The temperature in the stratosphere actually begins to warm as you go higher. The temperature increases because the ozone traps much of the sun's warmth. Ozone is a gas in the stratosphere that protects everything living on the Earth from harmful ultraviolet rays from the sun. Without the ozone layer, it would be very difficult for anything to survive on the surface. Think of a very bad sunburn, but only much worse. Plants cannot live and grow in heavy ultraviolet radiation, nor can plankton that serve as food for most of the ocean life. The ozone acts as a shield to absorb the UV rays and keep those rays from doing damage to the Earth's surface, but it also helps us stay warm. The mesosphere is at 31 miles and extends to 53 miles high. The top of the mesosphere, called the mesopause, is the coldest part of the Earth's atmosphere, with temperatures averaging about minus 130 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 90 degrees Celsius. The temperature decreases as you go up in the mesosphere because you are getting farther away from the ozone, which is a heat source. This layer is hard to study. Jets and balloons don't go high enough, and satellites and space shuttles orbit too high. Scientists do know that meteors burn up in this layer. The thermosphere extends about 56 miles and to between 300 and 600 miles. Temperature can get up to 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit or 1,500 degrees Celsius at this altitude. The thermosphere is considered part of the Earth's atmosphere, but air density is so low that most of this layer is what is normally thought of as outer space. In fact, this is where the space shuttles flew and where the International Space Station orbits the Earth. This is also the layer where auroras occur. Auroras are charged particles from space that collide with atoms and molecules in the thermosphere, exciting them into higher states of energy. The atoms shed this excess energy by emitting photons of light, which we see as colorful aurora borealis, or the northern lights, and aurora australis, which are the southern lights. Now here are the layers of the atmosphere in review. Layer 1 is the troposphere, where we live. Think trees. Second layer is the stratosphere, which contains the ozone layer and also protects us from ultraviolet rays from the sun. The third layer is the mesosphere, where the meteors burn, and this is also the coldest layer. And the thermosphere is where the satellites orbit the Earth, and this is also the hottest layer. So how are all the layers of the atmosphere divided? Well, scientists determined that the layers are divided by temperature change. So how do these temperature change of the layers occur? Well, think of the acronym DIDI, D-I-D-I. So in the first layer, the troposphere, the temperature decreases as you go higher because remember, you're getting away from the ground, which is a heat source. In the stratosphere, the temperatures actually increase as you go higher. This is because of the ozone, and the ozone absorbing heat from the sun. The third layer, the mesosphere, the temperature decreases as you go higher because now you are getting further away from the heat source, which is the ozone. And then finally, the thermosphere, the fourth layer. The thermosphere. The temperature increases as you go higher because now you have very little protection from the sun. So again, temperature by layer. Think DIDI, from Earth to space by layer. Decrease, increase, decrease, increase. Thanks for listening.